Facebook is a multi-billion-dollar business, but its controversial origin story has been a little bit murky until right now. If you've ever used Facebook to try to pick up on chicks, well, you're just like the site's founders, Mark Zuckerberg and Eduardo Saverin. Only they were successful beyond their wildest dreams. Originally conceived by Mark Zuckerberg as a college dorm room prank that would rank females at Harvard on hotness, Facebook would eventually go on to become one of the biggest players on the internet. In author Ben Mezrich's new book, Accidental Billionaires, Mezrich details origins of one of the biggest internet sites of all time. How did the success of the site tear apart the relationship of the two best friends who created it? Well, accept our friend request. It's The Loop. Joining me from New York to help us make sense of it all, the author of Accidental Billionaires, Ben Mezrich, joins us again. How are you, Ben?
I'm good. How you doing, man?
I'm doing very well. It's good to see you. I know we're all familiar with Facebook out here, but in your new book, you really break down the site's untold origins, which, just like any other good idea on the internet, it's born out of someone wanting to get laid, right? I mean, Mark Zuckerberg, the CEO, he was looking for tail, right?
I mean, really, everything in life starts that way, I think. But these were some geeky kids at Harvard, a sophomore and a junior, best friends, and they wanted to be in the in crowd. They wanted to be accepted. And it actually started with a prank, a college prank that went farther than they thought.
And so what exactly was this prank? It was something called Face Mash, right?
It was called Face Mash. What happened was Mark Zuckerberg, late one night after a date that didn't go well, he hacked into all the computers at Harvard and he pulled up all the pictures of all the girls on campus. And he made a hot or not website where you could vote on who was the hottest girl at Harvard. And in a matter of hours, this actually crashed all the servers at Harvard, and he nearly got kicked out of school. And then shortly after that, him and his friend Eduardo basically were sitting there, and they thought, what if people could put their own pictures up? And that's essentially where Facebook came from.
Well, is that where it came from? Because I heard that he teamed up with, and I'm questioning you as if you didn't write an entire book on this, by the way. But I heard that he teamed up with twin rowing champions to develop a site that was like Facebook for Harvard students. But he sort of jacked that idea from them, and that's what led to Facebook. Is that not accurate, or?
Well, that's part of the controversy. That's the big question. After he got famous on campus for Face Mash, what happened was these two guys, the Winklevoss twins, who are really cool guys, they were at the top of the food chain. They're
with evil cats that they stroke
rowers.
As they come up with plans to destroy the world. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Right, exactly. I mean, if this were an 80s movie, they would be dressed up as skeletons chasing the Karate Kid around the dance. But these were these big, good-looking guys, and they were trying to make a dating website. And so they found Mark, and they hired him to do their coding. What happened was Mark basically blew them off eventually, and then he started Facebook. So they think that it was stolen from them. From Mark's point of view, you know, it was a totally different idea, and then he launched Facebook shortly afterwards.
Well, sure, from his point of view it is. From his point of view, how does he feel about your book, by the way? Have you heard about him?
I mean, you know what? They called me the Jackie Collins of Silicon Valley, which I want to put on the paperback, actually. But they're nervous about it. They're terrified. But there's also a lot of buzz, so a lot of the people at Facebook are trying to get copies of it.
Sure.
It doesn't come out till tomorrow. But you know what? In the end, I think Mark won't hate it. I think it has he's a genius, and I think that Facebook is one of the most brilliant things ever created. I think it's the next step in human evolution, actually. So I'm not against what Mark did, but they're nervous about all the salacious kind of stuff in the book.
But you don't seem worried. You're not worried that he's not going to, you know, poke you back or leave a cupcake glitter graphic on your wall, like you think?
I mean, you know what? I'm on Facebook. I love Facebook, and we even have a fan site for the book on Facebook. So it's kind of very meta using Facebook to sell the book on Facebook.
Sure.
But I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. I mean,
what about using
it's
Facebook?
a very deep story.
What about using Facebook to sell a movie? Because I know there's already one in the works based on Accidental Billionaires. But you know, you're watching guys drink Mountain Dew and code for 90 minutes might not be the most exciting thing in the world. Don't get me wrong, I'm watching that in IMAX. But for other people out there, they want to hear about crazy sex parties, and
right.
I'm hoping there are crazy sex parties in your book.
Well, there's definitely crazy stories. There's a lot of Sean Parker's, this crazy kid. He co-founded Napster with Sean Fanning, then he founded Plaxo. And he was the kid, he's like the bad boy of Silicon Valley, who brought Mark Zuckerberg out to California. He basically turned the company into the billion-dollar behemoth that it is today. So there are a lot of crazy scenes. You know, there's a scene with Mark going home with a Victoria's Secret model. There's scenes with them, you know, having sex in the basement of a dorm room. There's lots of these salacious scenes in it as well, because they became, you know, essentially paper billionaires almost overnight. And so they went from being just two college kids who couldn't get laid to kids who ruled Silicon Valley.
And they went from being two kids who were best friends to, I mean, how does this story end? I mean, their relationship was severed, to say the least, right?
Yeah, their relationship fell apart. I mean, one of them, Eduardo, who's a great kid, he essentially finished Harvard. He stayed at school, while Mark Zuckerberg left early and went out to California to basically build the company. And there's lots of different opinions about what really happened, but their friendship did disappear. And for many years, Eduardo was erased from the history of Facebook. He's now been reinstated as co-founder. But, you know, their friendship did fall apart.
Well, maybe they can meet back up on Friendster in a couple years and everything will be fine. Ben,
Yeah.
I'm sure it's an incredible read. And again, I love your work. Thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing it with us.
Thanks,
Accidental Billionaires, for everybody out there, it hits stores tomorrow, so make sure you check it out. Thanks again to Ben for keeping us in the loop.